Hello everyone, welcome back to the Nut House. Today I want to share with you a recipe called peanut butter and chocolate pull apart rolls. We're going to start with a half a cup of milk that I warmed in the microwave and a third of a cup of water. Now we're going to add a quarter cup of sugar, and you do not have to do this in a bread machine. You can definitely use your mixer, and I would do the same thing if I were using my mixer or even by hand. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt. Now this is not iodized salt. I prefer the pink Himalayan salt. Now I'm adding a quarter of a cup of creamy peanut butter into my bread pan. Now I'm going to add the flour. Today I'm using all-purpose flour, but you can substitute bread flour for this. We're going to use 2 1/4 cups of the flour, and I'm going to add that right on top of the rest of the mixture. Now I'm adding 1 1/2 teaspoons of bread machine or instant yeast. This is really the only kind of yeast I buy or use, and that's just going to be sprinkled on top. And we're going to get this in the bread machine and set it to the dough setting, and it will take 1 hour and 30 minutes, and it will make the dough, mix the dough, allow the dough to rise by gently heating it. And then when it's finished, it'll beep and tell me, and we'll go to the next step. If I were making this recipe in my stand mixer, I would do all the same things, except for I would knead it for around 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to look for the same thing in the bowl that I'm looking for in this bread pan. I want the dough to come together. I want the dough to leave the sides of the pan, and I want it to be one cohesive mass in the center with no dry particles or bits of dough stuck on the side. And I would do the same thing in the mixer, and then I would just let it rise on my countertop until it's actually doubled in size. So it's the same exact thing. This just makes it a little bit simpler for me, but you definitely do not need a bread machine to do any of these. Like I said before, I got this at a thrift store, so I'm just using it because it was such a good deal, and I thought it would make life a little easier. This is what I'm talking about when I mean one cohesive ball of dough. There are no dry parts anywhere, and it's kneading nicely on that hook in the center. And I'm just going to let it do its thing, and then it'll beep at me and tell me when it's ready to move on. Now I have to say, I fed this to my family and they loved it. If you don't try any other recipe that I put on my channel, you need to try this one. It is delicious. Now I'm going to make the filling that goes inside the dough. I'm using around a half a cup of chocolate chips, and you can use semi-sweet or milk chocolate, or really whatever you like. I'm using milk chocolate. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of the same creamy peanut butter and get that mixed together. So the bread machine beeped and told me it was done and it had doubled in size. If it had not doubled, I would let it sit just a little bit longer. I'm going to get the dough out of the pan onto my countertop, and this dough is a bit sticky, so I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to my countertop because I do not want to add any more flour to my dough. The more flour I add, I will create a denser, drier, tougher dough, and I have found that it's much better when I'm rolling out any of my doughs to not add flour but to add the oil. It just works better. I'm going to roll this out into a circle, and then I'm going to cut it into triangles. Now, my recipe said 6 pieces. This should make 6 rolls. But if I had it to do all over again, I would definitely cut it into smaller parts, maybe 8. That's what I'm going to do next time because these rolls were just huge. But if you want a big roll, you can do 6. But I would definitely do 8. So here I was struggling a little bit. It just looked way too big to me, but I went ahead and went on with it and didn't trust my gut. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and add some of the filling mixture into the center towards the thicker end of the triangle, and I'm just going to kind of evenly add it until I've used all of the filling up. Now we're going to roll these up, starting at the wide end. We're going to roll them up until we reach the point, and then I'm going to try to seal that point. And then I'm going to curl them just a little bit over so it looks like a crescent roll. Now we're going to let this rest for around an hour until they've doubled in size. And you see, this is what it looks like when they've come out of the oven. I cooked them on 375 for about 15 minutes. And now I'm going to create the icing to go on top. We're going to use a half a cup of powdered sugar and 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. And then I'm going to add some milk to thin it out. Now you can add cocoa powder instead of the peanut butter, or you can add both like I did. And I'm just going to get it to the consistency that I want. And I would probably add a little bit less milk than I did because I added a little bit too much and got it a little too thin. But you can always add more powdered sugar and make it thicker. So now we're gonna drizzle this icing over the rolls, and you can add as much or as little as you like. Like I said before, I should have stopped when it was a little bit thicker, but it was still very, very, very good. Y'all definitely need to try this recipe. Like I said before, if you haven't tried anything else, try this, because they were really, really good. Really good. And here are the finished rolls that we have, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in the center. It's ooey gooey peanut butter and chocolate. So delicious. I want to thank you all for watching. If you would, please subscribe to the channel. It would help us out so much. Leave us a comment down below. We would love to hear from you.